PowerPoint if you like.
What?
Do you want your PowerPoint now?
Yeah, bring it up. So just to interject a few thoughts here in between, I do want to just raise a point that I actually think social media is going away. That those of you who today call yourselves a social media guru or expert, you should find a new job. That really what we're experiencing today is sort of the evolution of communications. That as a society, we will start to, if not already, start to feel the effects of hypercommunications. Because whether you're how many people here are on Facebook? Oh, and how many people here are tired of their friends' updates on Facebook? You should unfriend these guys, okay? The reality is that you're living in a time where we're getting more information about people's presence and information than we really care to process, yet we're politely not sure what to do about it. We're living in a time where the ecosystems around us are evolving quite rapidly, but I think what you're really feeling, although you're not seeing today, is the evolution of how we communicate as people. And that in the future, the communication systems will be the ones that actually drive these metaphors more connected, because they're the ones that have vested interest to help people connect, share, engage, and listen to each other, much more than any particular network out there by itself. And that while it's organic, this is a tectonic shift in how the world communicates, and that in the near future, these networks will be, I think, more personal. I think you'll own your own data. You'll figure out how this all works, and that we're going to connect in a way that's much bigger than us. As we get there, I think there'll be wonderful tools to help us figure out what's going on. But I think that the evolution of social media is just a transitional phrase. As much as you could take advantage, you could assume that there'll be a ray of light and a breath of air, and there's a wave to look at outside in the ocean. That's where I think this really goes. This is part of the human experience, and that what I learned from this is actually serendipity and humanity are things those people who are engaged on social networks start to feel humanity at a level they never knew was possible, because these status updates give us a sense of presence which is hard to explain, but you can experience it as a person. And that brands that are successful in this world realize behind people their tweets, and that you can connect, that there's a real level of humanity here, that in caring. So I caution you not to be so connected to social media, because I really think it's the human experience. And the person who's speaking next knows a lot about that. So going up, and Nakastet, please.
That was beautiful. I would now like to undermine everything he just said.
Thank you.
My name is Baratunde Thurston. I have a lot of jobs, but I'm here, and my job is web editor for The Onion, which is a satire magazine and news source and video and podcast, Peabody Award-winning video news service as well. Our motto is Tu stultus est, which is Latin for you are dumb. We're in an age of participatory media, and where you're taught as a publisher to respect the opinions of your audience. We do not do that, and they love the abuse. Quick history for those who don't know, we're not as big in Europe as we are in the US. We're actually founded by a German, Friedrich Zwiebel. He came over in 1765 and started the Mercantile Onion. And he did that because these were the only two English words that he knew. So it's a very logical thing to do. He then passed power to T. Hermann Zwiebel, who reigned for over 100 years. In 2001, that's not the date of death. That's the date he left the Earth's atmosphere in a rocket, vowing to return when there was a cure for the old. So he's still waiting for that. We've covered every major event in U.S. history, and world history, really. Earthquake marking the least gay day in San Francisco history. We obviously remember the great moon landing, of course, which was, everyone knows that, has that headline in their living room. And of course, when George W. Bush took office, we covered his inauguration speech like no one else. Our long national nightmare of peace and prosperity is finally over, and that proved frighteningly accurate. So as a publisher, this kind of combines some of what Loic was talking about with trying to be more mainstream with this whole real-time term, and what Raj was talking about with publishers trying to be where their audience and community are. At The Onion, we've taken steps to do just that. We've gone from a weekly print newspaper to multimedia formats to really intervening in the experience of the real-time web. Here are 3 quick examples. There's nothing like real-time, to compare to real-time publishing outside of an election. There are exit polls, there's accusations of fraud, there are a lot of speculation before the polls actually close. And in 2008, a movement started called Twitter Vote Report, where people accurately tried to relay what was going on at their polling stations, who they voted for, what were the conditions. And so what we did at The Onion is throughout the day, we interrupted this hashtag on Twitter with our own Twitter vote reports. So you have this example here, Christopher Nathan's 18 cast an informed vote for president, and half a dozen ignorant votes from mayor, governor, county sheriff, and some ballot initiative about term limits or banks or something. So if you are a voting rights lawyer mining this feed looking for trends, every once in a while you got a little stab in the back from us just to remind you that we're there. Obviously the election turned out well for most, terrible for Barack Obama. The Oscars, this again is a great event, around events, that's where you have a high velocity and high engagement of a large group of people around a shared cultural experience. So people are constantly tweeting about the Oscars, and in real time, The Onion posted updates to the Oscars with what was happening on stage. So Helvetica bold oblique sweeps Fonties, or Area Man honored to be one who added death date to Heath Ledger's Wikipedia page. Now, that was a way of recirculating existing content, but we also wrote new content just for this beautiful cultural moment. Film star Charlton Heston passed away in April at age 84. He's survived by 5 guns, 14 grand guns, and 11 great grand guns. And again, for people, whether it's MTV or someone at home in their pajamas or Snuggies or whatever, they see this interrupting their view of the Oscars, so it's like we're in the living room with them, telling them what's important. And then finally, getting into legitimate breaking news, our model of web publishing has changed to really keep up and even exceed the capabilities of your CNNs, New York Times, and other major media outlets. So Lou Dobbs is a famous American news and opinion maker who really had a thing against illegal immigrants. He got a lot of pressure, worked at CNN, and suddenly quit on November 11th, at which point we posted the tweet in the top left corner, breaking, Lou Dobbs deported from U.S., CNN host living illegally in country since 1961. You click through that, you got a 2-graph update, said we're pursuing this developing story, and the next day we posted the full thing with photos of his Latin American family and him being hauled away by DHS. The irony was beautiful, the comedy was true. Wow. Now that's the Onion. There's another quick example of 1 minute. I'm well within it. So there's a TwitCom going on Twitter right now. This is a slightly different flavor, but you've got 7 comedians. I'm not either of them. I just found this and sort of like showcase someone else's work. And they've created a set of 7 characters playing out in pseudo-real time this unfolding drama of a sitcom. It stars needy girlfriend, her aloof boyfriend, the black friend, guy down the hall, overbearing mother, the perfect sis, and cliche stoner. And you can find it on this list. I definitely say tune in to this particular list, tune into this TwitCom, and see how creative people are trying to take advantage of this web, not necessarily building tools for filtering, but making a reason to extend the art into this fast-moving slice and dice platform. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So we have intentionally left time over for questions from you, the audience. If you'd like to use the microphones and stand up and state questions so that when it's being recorded, we have your voice, that'd be terrific. So questions, please? You accept everything that we said is fact? Are you kidding? No? Well, all right. So, but feel free to stand up and ask questions. But in the meanwhile, Loic, so how, I actually happen to be an investor in Seismic, and I'm just...
We agreed you wouldn't say it.
Well, just so people
hide
understand.
it, so
I'm also an investor in Twitter and some other platforms, but I'm just curious, from the time you were trying to promote video to the time you changed it to be an interesting version of Pointcast, what did you do? What prompted you? What happened to video?
We have, I had a dream, which
You
I
had a
still
dream.
have,
We all have dreams.
that we all would talk in video much more because it's very human. You love video too.
I do.
And it's very like, it's almost like meeting you in person, and you can feel that on Skype, but I wanted to do it in an asynchronous way so that you can, we can do it in an easier way to do.
I love that idea.
It's still up, it's on seismic.tv, but it happened that it has not grown. It has reached like 100,000 users, and then it didn't grow. And I made a big mistake as an entrepreneur, is that I took a little bit myself, or you, Jeff, as people using that stuff without caring too much. Well, the people in the street don't like video. They're shy, they don't like their image online, and there wasn't a technology problem, but there was a human issue, and I think it will work. I will talk about it, but more in 5 years. So I think as an entrepreneur, it's a big mistake if you have a wall like this just in front of you and you don't change immediately. So we actually at DLD last year, when I came back, I started reinventing the company entirely, and now we're getting you know, a million
I
users.
congratulate you on shifting vision. It's just that, you know, since 1964, in the 64 World's Fair, when AT&T showed us video, I thought there'd be a generation or two or three that actually would embrace it, and I'm still waiting.
No, I just saw this guy.
Oh, a question. Go ahead.
Hi, David
Just state your
Blumberg.
name, please, and where you're from.
David Blumberg, Blumberg Capital in San Francisco. And this is not a question for The Onion, but you're welcome to answer.
The Onion answers all questions.
The question is, what are the most interesting business models you've all seen on the real-time web world, and where do you think that's going? The opportunities abound, but Twitter hasn't found one yet, so what do you think is going on?
Yeah, I can take that for a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, we've definitely had a lot of experience with brands and sort of advertisers that don't want to advertise against all kinds of content, and social media, of course, and the real-time web poses a lot of challenges. And what we've sort of realized is, a lot of them, they want to play in that game because they obviously understand that there is a huge audience, and they salivate over being able to get to that audience and attract them towards their brand. But a lot of them don't understand how to go about doing that. I mean, some of them, they look at, maybe I should get followers for my particular Twitter account.
So what strategy have you seen that works?
What really works is when you play in a topical environment that works really well with the kind of advertising that they're trying to promote, right? So, if it's something against a Twitter profile, for example, it really doesn't make any sense because the person that's trying to consume that content, isn't really looking for that ad per se,
Sure,
right?
yeah. And
Do you want to add to that?
yeah.
So not speaking as a fake news source, but just as a fellow geek, one Read Write Web has a great report on real-time web, and it analyzes a bunch of business models. But there's actually a guy here I just met yesterday, Ed Young, at Worldwide Live, and they have an iPhone app that creates channels around artists, and artists can send messages just to their Worldwide Live audience, so exclusive things. They have location-based notices about concerts, CD signings, etc. So they're not selling the content, but they're sort of selling this relationship between the artist and this very excited community, and I'm sure they're doing advertising. It's probably going to get a lot more targeted, et cetera. But that's something that people seem to want to pay for. People love celebrity, and they love art.
The week?
I think brands should not make